Io sono il refettore.
Test, test, Alessio, test, mi senti? Alza la mano se mi senti, ok?
Sì, 1, 2, ecco fa qui. È sul nero. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Sì, prova. Sì.
Statistics measure our lives and our globalized societies.
Ladies and gentlemen, it would be nice if you could take your seats,
GLOBALSTAT is the
please.
gateway that guides you through an incredible amount of data from different official international sources. It not only gives you access to single indicators of poverty, education, economic growth, human development, and many other areas. It also allows you to go further and learn more about cross-cutting issues that are key to everyone's lives in a globalized world. Let's have a look at some data you can extract from GLOBALSTAT. GLOBALSTAT offers the most fundamental information on the world's population, half of which lives in Asia. On average, today, women live longer than men, especially in Europe. Asia is the hardest hit continent with devastating typhoons, hurricanes, floods, droughts. But how many people exactly are severely affected around the world? GLOBALSTAT not only looks at these developments across space, but also over time. Over the past decades, the global production of wealth was most strongly boosted by Asia, Europe, and the Americas. But although Asia is the continent with the highest total GDP, it still has the lowest GDP per capita after Africa. Yet, although GDP has grown, other areas are less well off. During the last century, CO2 emissions have become a serious problem for our planet. And today, Asia produces twice as much CO2 as the Americas, although the amount per capita remains lower. GLOBALSTAT is directly accessible, intuitive to use, credible, and free of charge. Let's start exploring. Choose a theme and a sub-theme from the left-hand menu. Choose the indicator you want to display. GLOBALSTAT shows you the first and last available for all countries. Now select years, single countries, or groups. Click Update to refresh the table. By clicking Info, you will have access to metadata, such as original sources, concepts, measure unit. The top bar allows you to change data visualization from table to rankings, bar and line charts. You can also export data tables, and graphs. Now you can share it through social networks. GLOBALSTAT allows you to consult key indicators for each of the 193 UN countries. Knowledge is empowerment. Empower yourself. Start exploring.
Dear President Weiler, Honorable Minister, dear State Secretary, distinguished authorities, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you tonight, also in the names of Laura Bartolini, Caterina Francesca Guidi, Luca Mancini, Laura Puccio, Martinho Rubalmaceda, Jana Lopes Martins, Rui Pimentel and Susanna Norton, who form the core team of GLOBALSTAT to today's launch of GLOBALSTAT. GLOBALSTAT is a project that has been developed jointly by the Robert Schuman Center's Global Governance Program and the Francisco Manuel dos Santos Foundation in Lisbon. Over the past years, we have developed the database that you now see, GLOBALSTAT, the database on developments in a globalized world. Accounting for the multidimensionality of these developments in a globalized world, you find within our database most different themes and data from a huge number of international organizations and data providers. GLOBALSTAT is a public information tool, and as such, it is designed for users around the world. At the heart of the database and its main idea stands knowledge is empowerment. So we want to empower people by easy access to information, to learn more about facts, and to empower themselves to judge and to know and to be informed. GLOBALSTAT is designed to support the understanding of trends in globalization, in human well-being, and in sustainable development. And as such, it provides essential information about the way we live, the freedoms we enjoy, and the limitations we face around the world. In order to embed GLOBALSTAT's launch and GLOBALSTAT into modern politics, into open access to information and data, and into the two institutions' activities, we have 4 distinguished speakers with us tonight. Actually, none of them needs introduction, but nevertheless allow me to do so in order to welcome each of them individually. Bridget Leffen is the director of and professor at the Robert Schuman Center here at the EUI. Moreover, she is director of the Global Governance Program, and as such, she has been the person most closely accompanying our work over the past month, ever since she came here in 2013. Moreover, until August 2013, Bridget was Shomoni Professor for European Politics at the University College of Dublin, where she also was Vice President and the Principal of the College of Human Sciences. What maybe most strongly interlinks her with our idea of empowerment through knowledge is her direct experience in formation of public opinion in the Irish Alliance for Europe, who campaigned for the yes vote in the second Nice referendum. Bridget, your support is a backbone of our work at the Global Governance Program, and we all thank you very much for that. Miguel Maduro, Minister in the Cabinet of the Portuguese Prime Minister and Minister for Regional Development of Portugal. 7 years he has been Advocate General at the European Court of Justice, and he has also been visiting professor, scholar, lecturer at many prestigious universities, among them Yale, Harvard, the LSE, the College of Europe. But most of us will know him, however, from his time here at the EUI as a professor of law. And while he was at the EUI, he was also the founding director of the Global Governance Program at the time when GLOBALSTAT and its idea was developed. Miguel always strongly encouraged us to develop the project and to embed it into the Global Governance Program, and he also established, knowing the work of the Francisco Manuel dos Santos Foundation, the links to our project partners in order to work together. Miguel, GLOBALSTAT owes you so much, truly, during our joint time at the Global Governance Program, and we're so thankful that you're here tonight to share this very special moment with us. Thank you very much. Anthony, it's so good that you're here. Thank you very much for coming. Anthony, who better than Anthony knows the link between power and knowledge, the power of knowledge, about what it takes to bring knowledge to the people and to empower people through awareness and knowledge. Anthony Teasdale is the Director General of the European Parliament's Research Service that was founded in November 2013. And political scientist by training from Oxford University, he has been working in different positions as political advisor and a civil servant, high-ranking for the British government, for the Council of Ministers, and for the European Parliament in different positions. Anthony has always kept as well his contact to academia as a research fellow at Nuffield College and as a visiting professor at the University of Buckingham. Thank you very much, Anthony, for being here as well. It's a great pleasure. Last, but by far not least, Pedro Magalhães. Pedro is the scientific director of the Francisco Manuel dos Santos Foundation in Portugal, in Lisbon. And Pedro has been collaborating with us, especially in the pre-launch phase, and we are very thankful for that. It is a real pleasure working together with you. Thank you very much, Pedro. Pedro is, apart from his work in the foundation, researcher at the Institute for Social Science at the University of Lisbon. And as such, his work is embedded and rooted in statistics, very close to the world of statistics. He's working on political electoral behavior, on social attitudes, and on public opinion. Previously also collaborator in projects like Pirideo here at the UI. Thank you all for agreeing to come tonight. Bridget, before I hand over to you, I would like to thank, first of all of you for coming after a long day here at the UI. We very much appreciate your interest for the project, but I especially would like to send out thanks to the GLOBALSTAT team, who have done an amazing work over the past month in establishing this database and improving it and caring about the performance. They are very special people and a wonderful team to work with. The entire team appreciates very much your presence here tonight and the opportunity to have GLOBALSTAT launched within this wonderful setting of the 5th edition of the State of the Union conference at the European University Institute. Thank you all for coming. Bridget, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Gabby. Good evening, everyone. President Weiler, Minister, State Secretary, distinguished guests, dear colleagues. It's a great pleasure for me as Director of the Robert Schuman Centre to welcome you all this evening, and of course Director of the Global Governance Programme, to welcome you this evening to the launch of GLOBALSTAT at the 2015 Annual State of the Union. It is our big event of the year, and it is testimony to GLOBALSTAT that it is part of this year's Annual State of the Union. Mark Twain in his biography said, "Figures often beguile me." And there's no doubt figures and quantification and statistics and indicators didn't just beguile Mark Twain, but in fact have been captivated indicators, statistics of all kind have captivated the modern nation state. Governing by numbers, balance of payments, gross domestic product, unemployment levels, participation rates, etc., are eagerly awaited in public policy processes as markers of progress and regress. Measuring, monitoring, and unfortunately, as we know, massaging data are core to contemporary politics. What to measure, how to interpret, how often to measure, there is, with quantification, a sense that this is part of evidence-based policy making, that it brings rationality to the art of governing. But of course, we must always remember that numbers are also deeply political. Governing by numbers may have started within the nation state as a phenomenon of state building and state capacity, but with growing interdependence and globalization among states and societies, governing by numbers is now part of a globalized world, the growth of international organizations. There is a phenomenal generation of data across the world. And of course, comparisons across countries is now also very important to contemporary politics. Benchmarking, monitoring, naming, shaming is ubiquitous within the EU and at global level as a tool of governance. When in 2009, when the Global Governance Programme was launched at the Robert Schuman Centre under its then director Miguel Maduro, Miguel he looked at what Gabi Umbach was doing as she developed indicators of sustainable development. And because the Global Governance Programme was a new programme, he thought, why don't we, as part of this programme, think about launching a very ambitious project to develop user-friendly, politically neutral, because it would be a platform of data available on a very wide range of data that went beyond simply GDP. And so this data set is designed to go beyond GDP. It's designed to give a perspective on globalization, to include a very wide range of data on water resources, housing, migration, land use, food production. We saw all of the different elements in the short video, and we will hear more about the data platform and what it does, and you can experience it live in all of these computers around. But that ambitious program is now coming to fruition, and because of this, I must now end with thanks and appreciation, because although Gabby said some very nice words about me, in fact, the GLOBALSTAT project was up and running when I came to the Schumann Center, and I think all I had to do was, in a sense, act as a godparent and see it finally to fruition. My first thanks to Miguel. He launched this. It was his idea. He secured the resources for it, for the project, and without resources, this project could not have been undertaken. Secondly, I want to express our deep appreciation of our Portuguese partners. Without you, we couldn't have done this either. And it's been a partnership, and that's how we like to work in Schumann. We like to work with partners. And I'd particularly, Pedro, like to thank you as Scientific Director for your support for the project. And finally, I must thank the team, the GLOBALSTAT team, and congratulate them on bringing this to fruition. They have worked tremendously over the years, and I know particularly over the last couple of months when we decided it was going live. Gabi Umbach has been unstinting in the work that she has, her organizational capacity, her capacity to lead her team to do this work. And all I can say at the end is I can think of no one more fitting than Miguel Maduro to launch this project this evening. It is yours. It is now, in a sense, that project that started way back has now come to fruition. And we're very glad and deeply appreciative of the fact that you're with us this evening. Miguel.
Joseph, Bridget, and thank you very much, Bridget, for those kind words. I still remember when Gabi arrived. It was the first year of the Global Governance Program. And Gabi, as Bridget said, came year for a year. And during a year, she was going to do a research on indicators. And then I made this challenge to Gabi: why don't we turn this into a really ambitious project of making a global database of indicators that is user-friendly and aggregates data from multiple sources that we have, but often are dispersed and not in an accessible way for citizens. And if I remember correctly, the greatest obstacle we had was the fact that Gabi needed to convince her boyfriend to allow her to stay for more than 1 year. I remember well, I think so. So it took 6 months to convince Gabi's boyfriend. I hope it's still the same. Well, silent might mean something. If it's not, I'm sure you're much better off. Anyway. But if you will have any doubts, you will need to know Gabi, to know and understand why that was the main obstacle. Because in fact, without Gabi Umbach, there will never have been GLOBALSTAT. Gabi is perhaps certainly one of the most, if not the most competent, engaging person that I know, capable of overcoming any obstacle. Because to have the big idea and the big ambitious idea of having this global database was something, but then to have to make the agreements with all these entities and institutions so that they could provide this data, the data with these hundreds of indicators, to do all the work, to train all the staff that she trained that was able to do this job, then to engage with the foundation. Only someone with the capacities of Gabi would have been able to do it. And so, fortunately, even if he's no longer your boyfriend, I understand. I thank you anyway to your former boyfriend for having allowed you to stay, because that is what makes this database possible. Thank you very much to Brigitte too, because I left halfway through the project, and I'm sure that if it was not for your support, this will never have been possible. And particularly, let me thank the foundation, Francisco Manuel dos Santos. I think, and at the time, its president at the time, Antonio Barreto too, that I think all of us in the foundation and most of you that are now still in the foundation got into the foundation with Antonio and know the extent to which Antonio Barreto also played a role in understanding the importance of this project and supporting this project early on. But if it had not been for the very strong commitment of the foundation, this database will not exist. And in fact, the idea for the database itself came through merging the interests and the research of Gabi with the database that the foundation created for Portugal. So it was the idea of basically trying to do something like the foundation Francisco Manuel dos Santos has done for Portugal at a global level. And it was the merger of these two interests and these two concepts that makes this database possible. What does it serve for? I think this is basically a democratic tool. This is an instrument to improve the quality of democracy and the quality of policies, of public policies. First, because it allows better public policies. It creates what is now very fashionable to say as evidence-based public policy. The more information we have, the better the quality of the information we have, the better our public policies will be. In fact, I would say our decisions as a political community and our decisions, let me talk now as a member of government, our decisions in governments as public decision makers are only as good as the processes that shape those decisions. The better our processes of decision making, the better the information that informs those decision-making process, the better our decisions will be, the better our public policies will be. And this is, first of all, an instrument to improve the quality of our public policies. But it's also an instrument to improve the scrutiny of citizens with respect to those public policies. It promotes transparency on the results of those public policies compared with other states. It also provides information to citizens on the extent to which public policies are producing or not better results over time. And that element of comparison, that element of transparency on the evolution and the results of public policies is very important in improving the degree of scrutiny that citizens can have over those policies and over the democratic process overall. Third, it also promotes a better public discourse and a better deliberation. The information it provides informs that public space. And if there is something that I believe is crucial nowadays for us, is to improve the quality of our public space. We increasingly have, as citizens, to participate, to engage on a deep, wide scope of topics and issues. And often those issues are very complex, and citizens are required to take decisions on them, are required to make choices on those topics. And it's very difficult to do it if you don't have good, reliable information. These kind of instruments are very powerful in making more accessible to citizens the information that in turn allow the quality of this public discourse to be improved. I think to a large extent, democracy nowadays is also a cognitive process. And that cognitive process requires information, and instruments such as those are fundamental for that. It's also a tool in the promotion of a global space, in understanding the processes that are taking place at global level, including redistribution between regional areas. And in this respect, is very powerful in understanding the increasing interdependence between states, the increasing interdependence between political communities, raising mutual awareness between citizens of different states, and in drawing consequences from that. Yet, these instruments that we have here at the global level, but that we increasingly have also at national level, are no magic bullet for the challenges that democracy faces nowadays. They have a lot of potential in them, but they also bring new challenges. First, discussions on the reliability of these indicators. Also discussions on why these indicators and not other indicators. How do you measure the well-being of a people? By its GDP, by happiness indexes? All those are very important issues. They also increasingly raise discussions on comparability. How can you compare? Comparison can be very powerful because by learning what is taking place and the results that occur in a different state, you can draw conclusions and on the comparison between the outcomes of your public policies with the outcomes of the public policies of those states. But those comparisons can actually lead to wrong decisions if the comparisons don't take into account the context where those policies take place. And so comparison can be a very powerful instrument for the good, but can also actually lead to wrong decisions if you don't understand that a comparison is never simply transporting and transferring a policy from one context to another without taking into account that context always matters in understanding a policy and the results it can or not produce. So these instruments have a lot of potential, but also bring new challenges. They also raise questions on the relationship, and we hear that very often, on the relationship between politics and knowledge, politics and technocracy. Some people say that, well, you can't bring too much technocracy and information into public decision-making, into democracy, because then you are reversing the order of things. It should be politics that should prevail over knowledge, over information. But it is wrong to oppose knowledge and politics. The issue is not the primacy of politics over knowledge and technocracy, but is what kind of politics do we want? And the right kind of politics that we want is a politics that is informed by knowledge. And what we need to work is on the quality of that knowledge, on the challenge that should be made to that knowledge, on the reviewing processes of that knowledge. The relationship between knowledge and politics is going to be, I would dare say, crucial for the future of democracy. And the way we manage to balance the two, and the way we organize the relationship between knowledge and politics will be crucial for the quality of the democratic process, and will be crucial for us to take the best out of instruments such as GLOBALSTAT, instead of having consequences that will be negative consequences of the relationship of using instruments of this type in democratic processes and in political processes. And if I would say that there is a next stage for GLOBALSTAT, it will be the one of going back to the original project of Gabi. That is, now that you have the data, now that you've collected the data, now that you have all these indicators, now that you have a user-friendly database that compiles all these hundreds of indicators, comparing different states and comparing different regions of the globe, what we need to focus is on discussing how these indicators should shape politics and the democratic processes. And also focusing on what other forms of indicators do we need to have even better decisions, to have an even better democratic process. And I'm sure that Gabi, her team, and everyone else at the Global Governance will do just that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Bridget. Thank you, Gabi. Thank you, Miguel. Also, a great pleasure that Professor Weiler is here, because I'd like, if I may, to preface my remarks by saying that the European Parliament, notably in the form of our new Parliamentary Research Service, has established a very close link with the European University Institute in the last year or so, thanks not least to the agreement between the two presidents of the institutions, Professor Weiler on the one hand, Martin Schulz on the other, which looks forward to increasingly close cooperation in many areas. And to give an example of that, we also have in the audience another Director General from the European Parliament, Ricardo Ribera. We have our first European Parliament visiting fellow Alfredo De Feo, who's the director of our library. So we're trying very hard to make a practical reality of this cooperation, and next Monday we will have the second of our joint policy roundtables, which we're doing every 6 months. This next one will be devoted to European economic governance. Much of what I was thinking of saying has already been said very eloquently by Miguel, and I'd just like, if I may, to make 3 very quick points. I think statistics, data of various kinds, infographics which present that material in different ways are already becoming and are going to become increasingly important in the political and policy-making world. I think they are, in any case, becoming more important in our public culture, and these 2 things are linked. The decline of political parties, the de-alignment of the electorate, the skepticism towards governing elites, which we see very clearly demonstrated in national and in European elections, and which have been very ably analysed here at the European University Institute, are creating a bigger space for serious debate among empowered individuals. And serious debate means countering some of the implications of the internet, in which there can be very easily a kind of dumbing down of the discussion, and instead an upgrading, if you like. Evidence-based policy making should be part of that process, but a general improvement in the quality of public discussion is now possible as a result of the digital revolution. In the European Union, we see that process already taking shape in the greater emphasis on the policy cycle, looking a little bit upstream, looking downstream, where policy initiatives come from, what their effects in practice are, and trying to join that up into something more akin to a policy cycle. As the deployment of statistics becomes easier and cheaper, and so the possibilities of creating something like GLOBALSTAT are facilitated, so I think there is a greater responsibility on public authorities to make that material as freely and as easily available as possible. Many of you will have confronted in the same way that I have the difficulty of using websites of databases where there is a cornucopia of material, but it's extremely difficult to cut through to find what you want. And that's the case, I think, with quite a number of international organizations who have excellent material, but which is essentially difficult to access. The great joy of GLOBALSTAT, and I was using it for the first time this morning, is its accessibility, is its scope, and is its ease of use. And so the kind of people who I work with in our European Parliamentary Research Service, we also incidentally have the slogan or the motto, empowering through knowledge. We adopted it last autumn. But it shows the convergence of analysis, if you like, between your initiative and our own. The kind of people that I'm working with will find this indispensable in the material which they generate to brief our members and our committees in the European Parliament. That material is also in very large measure made publicly available on the internet, and is therefore one that feeds through, hopefully, to this wider public debate. And the fact that it's for free is critically important in this. We, like you, have been developing new tools of this kind. We recently launched on our own website a graphics warehouse, and we've been thinking about launching a statistics warehouse. But I think after we've seen the potential of GLOBALSTAT, we need to operate in partnership in that area, and we will certainly be incorporating your web link on our intranet and on our blog. Also, I think that the emphasis on long-term trends is critical. One of the things that the European institutions have been looking at recently is an attempt to strengthen our capacity to think forward about policy changes, policy challenges, policy choices that follow from the global trends which are engulfing us. And the material which you're bringing together here, it seems to me, will be extremely important in that context. So I think that, in short, our reaction is one of great pleasure and joy in seeing the development of a capability of this kind, and we look forward to using it actively as we deepen our partnership in the months and the years ahead. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me start on behalf of the Francisco Manuel dos Santos Foundation to thank the European University Institute, to thank the Robert Schuman Center and the Global Governance Program for hosting this session. I'd like to say some very brief words about why this foundation is committed to GLOBALSTAT. And let me start by quoting from Article 2 of our statutes, where our mission is defined. Our mission is to promote and deepen the knowledge of Portuguese reality, aiming in that way at societal development, the reinforcement of citizens' rights, and the improvement of public institutions. And what I would like to say in the next minutes is to explain how this mission has been interpreted, first by the founding family, then by the first president of the foundation, António Barreto, by the current president, Nuno Garopa, and by myself, and explain why we think our interpretation fits very well this GLOBALSTAT project. The first reason why our mission fits the GLOBALSTAT project is that we interpret this mission as involving the collection, the analysis, and dissemination of facts about Portuguese society. I understand that saying that promoting knowledge involves collecting facts sounds more than a bit trivial, but if you know something about Portuguese society and about many other societies, you realize that this is not so trivial. Portugal, as other countries in Europe, for example, is a country where the social sciences and the development of modern social sciences has been particularly late and particularly slow. And in spite of rapid improvements, we still have many important gaps of knowledge regarding our society. Portugal, as many other countries, is a country where the mass media is in a deep crisis due to a small market and a small readership. And this has affected the resources that the media have to make and disseminate information and analysis. And Portugal, like many other countries, is a country where policy debates and policy making still seem very often much more oriented by hunches and by opinions than by facts, evidence, and knowledge. So because of this context, we see at the foundation the collection and dissemination of facts as a main priority, and I hope that this sounds less trivial now. It addresses a need in our society and in other societies that have similar characteristics. This is what led us to support the Poor Data project, which collects statistical data on Portuguese society, the public opinion portal, and this is what also leads us in our different projects to stimulate as much as possible the dissemination of the data that is collected. Of course, facts are open to interpretations. They can be read in different ways. They can justify many courses of action. And this is exactly how it should be in a free society and a society characterized by democratic deliberation. However, at the Foundation, we believe that there is a difference between democratic deliberation and policy debates based merely on hunches and opinions, and democratic deliberation and policy debates based on facts. And it is to this perhaps small, but we think very significant difference that we want to contribute. The second reason why we think GLOBALSTAT fits our mission extremely well is one for which I would like to quote one of the most important social scientists of the 20th century, Seymour Martin Lipset. Seymour Martin Lipset was a political scientist and a sociologist. He was the only person ever to be a president of the American Sociological Association and the American Political Science Association. And he used to start one of his classes, his comparative politics class, with a sentence for his students. Those who know only one country know no country at all. In the foundation, we try to make this our credo too. We try to make this one of our mottos. Knowledge of Portuguese society requires us to put Portugal in context, be that the context of Southern Europe, be that the context of Europe or the context of the world. It's not that it's convenient or better to compare. It is necessary to describe and explain any society. Comparison is required and a necessity. And this is the reason, again, why our Power Data project has an European dimension, the same thing with our public opinion portal, and this is why our several projects we've been trying to explicitly, as much as we can, to foster a comparative dimension. This emphasis on facts and their dissemination on the one hand, and the emphasis on comparison on the other hand, is, after all, what GLOBALSTAT is all about. So it should not come as a surprise that the Foundation has decided to launch this project together with the Global Governance Program, and that we feel extremely happy and privileged to be doing this together with the EUI and the Global Governance Program. I have two very quick words about the future. We see the launch of GLOBALSTAT as a first step, which needs to be followed by further action. The first reason is that data don't speak by themselves. It's important, of course, as now that they are available, but they need to be interpreted, they need to be analyzed, they need to be, in a way, curated. We need to be able to tell stories about the world, about how globalization is changing the world. So one of the next steps we see for GLOBALSTAT, we see GLOBALSTAT as also promoting this sort of data curation. This is something that the team here at the EUI is particularly well equipped to do. But as much as we can do together, there's always more that can be done outside. So there are several potential communities of users in the policy-making arena, in the academia, in the media, that can themselves tell stories about globalization. And one I see, and the Foundation sees, as one of the main priorities for GLOBALSTAT in the near future, to make sure that these stories are told. The second thing about the future I want to say is that we should remember that we are not alone in this effort. There are many institutions, international and national, that are currently joining efforts in this regard of disseminating and making data open. So another priority that the Foundation sees for the near future is to make sure that our efforts can be combined and articulated with those of other institutions, public or private, that have been placing open data and data dissemination as their priority. And here, again, I think we have the best possible partner in the EUI, in the Global Governance Program, and in particular in Gabi Umbach, to make sure that we are able to engage with other institutions in furthering this effort. Thank you very much.
We are really close to the end. Good evening to all of you. I was given the most pleasant role of this presentation to invite you for in the Italian, aperitivo. Don't expect nothing big from now. But before, I would like to add three notes just before the end. The first note is to express, on behalf of our foundation, our deeply gratitude to the team responsible for the GLOBALSTAT. I know that Gabby already mentioned the majority of them, but let me share with you the names of the core group, the amazing team that have been bringing alive the GLOBALSTAT. Here in the European University Institute, Laura Bartolini. Where is Laura? Hello, Laura. Catarina Francesca Guidi. Luca Mancini. And of course, its leader, Gabi Umbach. And in Portugal, at our foundation, we want to recognize the leadership of Joana Martins and the great support and production of Susana Norton and Rui Pimentel. My second note is on the status of GLOBALSTAT. I think you already recognize that the workstations in this room are in progress. The GLOBALSTAT is already up and running. That's why, please, the GLOBALSTAT waiting your questions, your doubts, is ready to go. Lastly, please, is an invitation. Join us tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. at Palazzo Vecchio for the GLOBALSTAT press conference with the presence of the Portuguese Prime Minister. We'll be delighted to receive you tomorrow. And now, please, enjoy the aperitivo. Thank you, and enjoy also the evening. Thank you so much.